All right, we get it rolling on the Krueg Show. Hope everybody's having a great night. It is August the 16th, 9:07 on the West Coast. That means it's 7 minutes after midnight on the East Coast. Hope everybody's having a great day. I was at training camp today, and of course, we're brought to you by Pig in a Pickle, the best barbecue in Northern California. Check them out in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week in both spots from 11 a.m. until 8 p.m. or until they run out, and they do run out. Go say hi to Damon. Go say hi to Mary. Tell them that Larry Krueger sent you. We're also brought to you by Marin Auto Glass, marinautoglass.com, 415-883-3030. My man Saeed owns Marin Auto Glass, does a great job. If you bust a windshield, you need a new one, I only go to Marin Auto Glass. And we're also brought to you by New York Style Sausage Company. The only sausage I will eat is New York Style sausage. We'll have more on our sponsors in a little bit, but Ryan Hensley is back with us. Ryan, good to see you. And I thought of you today as I was driving in because I could not believe what I was hearing about Trey Lance from Michael Lombardi. And we're going to start right there. I just, this is such a weird quote, and there's so many better ways to make this exact quote. And this guy supposedly talks for a living, and then he's been so bent out of shape since the Niners did not take Mac Jones. He never backed down from it. He always said they were going to take Mac Jones. Then he said that, yeah, even when they didn't take Mac Jones and they took Trey Lance, that Kyle Shanahan never really wanted Trey Lance, so on and so forth. So he's always been kind of a the opposite of an advocate, whatever that would be, for Trey Lance. And but here, I'm going to share the screen on this one, and we're going to play this off Twitter. I just couldn't believe this when I saw this. This is Michael Lombardi on the GM Shuffle podcast, which is a DraftKings production. And let's put this up there, and you can.
Where are we at with Trey Lance right now? Like,
here, I'll rewind it here. Here we go. Here we go.
As you go down this road with Lance, it just becomes harder and harder and harder. And you could show all the clips of him moving and all that stuff. At the end of the day, when his mama lifted him from the crib, he just didn't have that quarterback instinct. He is not going to be the backup quarterback. I don't know what they're going to do with him, but there's no chance. There is no chance based on the evidence that I've seen and based on what I've heard.
Michael, I asked you this before we ended the Lombardi line yesterday on VSiN. I think that he might be competing to stay on the 53-man roster. Like, is that where we at with Trey Lance right now? Like, are these reps looking for him to be able to say, can he stay on this roster and be a viable 49er?
Well, I think you got to look at this, right? Like, you know that once you reach a conclusion on a player, okay, once you really have a handle on who the player is, then you've got to make some decisions.
There you go. That was Michael Lombardi earlier today. Now, who is Michael Lombardi? People would say, well, he's worked in a number of different organizations. I believe he might have worked for the Niners at one time during the Walsh era. He worked for the Raiders for a long time. Never in a real high level with the Raiders. I mean, I know Jim Harbaugh badly wanted Mike to be the general manager, a job that went to Trent Baalke. But let's just focus on what he said there. And to me, the part that I think is the most controversial is just how he terms it up. You know, when his mom went to pick him out of the crib, he wasn't qualified. What are you saying? I mean, are you saying that he's an unnatural quarterback, or that you believe quarterbacks are born and not made? I don't know exactly what he's saying there, but it sounded awful. And it sounded that to me, it's like, how do you make something that isn't all that awful sound really, really awful by Mike Lombardi? You know, it's like, he basically was just saying that he's inexperienced, but it made it sound, I don't know what. I'll throw it to you, because I can't put words to that as exactly why that seems so offensive to me. But it's almost like he's saying that Trey Lance doesn't have what it takes to be an NFL quarterback and never has had what it takes. And I'm just kind of would like to follow up with, okay, then what does it take? Please tell us more. But give me your take, Ryan, because I mean, of all the people that have been pro Trey Lance, you're probably, one of his biggest advocates. What did you hear? What did you think when you first heard that? And what kinds of things have you already tweeted on it? What kinds of things have you said about it?
There's many levels to this one. For one, I think his overall summarization of Trey Lance is incorrect. And there's a million, even if you felt that way, even though I think you're incorrect, even if you felt that way, there's a million better ways to say it. And then let's really dissect it. Why the word mama? Would mama be used for Sam Darnold? Would mama be used for Brock Purdy? Or is that just a special word you reserve for guys like Trey Lance and other people that look like him? So that was disturbing in itself. Then why are you talking about a baby? You said something really smart one time, Larry, in regards to how people were writing off Trey Lance and calling him a bust. And you were talking about, going to the nursery, seeing newborn babies, right? And you were talking about how stupid that is. And then Michael Lombardi literally says what you said was stupid, right? He comes out and says it. So it makes no sense. Did you see what Kurt Warner and Steve Young said about Trey Lance today?
No, I didn't. Please fill me in, because I was at practice and I was driving back. I had dinner, sales call, the whole deal, and I've missed. I saw Steve Young was going to go on with Tom on KMBR this afternoon, but I didn't, and I normally would not want to miss that because I love Steve. What did he say?
So, two things. When you and I had the whole dink and dunk conversation, Kurt Warner tapped in, right? And
right.
Kurt Warner said that I was wrong, that he's not dink and dunk, and from his definition, I agreed, right? I said, okay, based on your definition, you're right. I don't consider Brock Purdy dink and dunk. What I meant was the arm thing, but that's neither here nor there. But a lot of people came on my stuff and wanted to dunk on me because Kurt Warner was tapping in. Well, if Kurt Warner's word is gospel, today Kurt Warner said he thinks Trey Lance looks improved and that he needs time to play. Steve Young tapped in today and said, I don't think that he's not seeing it. I think what's happening right now is he's squeezed, where every throw is a referendum on if he's any good or not. So what Steve Young is saying is basically that he lacks the confidence. And what Kurt Warner's saying is that he looks improved, but he needs reps. He needs to get on the field. So I'm going to go with what they're saying because I actually agree. Those have been my thoughts for a long time over Michael Lombardi's baby story or whatever he wants to do today.
Well, let's touch on those things from Young and Warner. One, I think I definitely see an improved player. I mean, I think everybody who has watched Trey Lance this summer would acknowledge that he is definitely improved. His motion is streamlined. He throws a better ball. He's more accurate with it. He, over the course of a practice, let's say a year ago, he would have anywhere between 2 to 6 or 7 like dramatic overthrows or underthrows, just inaccuracies. Mm-hmm. That's more like 2 or 3 a practice now, not 7, 8, 9. So, I mean, he's more accurate than he's been. All the players, the general manager, the head coach, everybody's on record as saying he's improved dramatically. So I definitely agree with Kurt Warner. And then as far as Steve Young, I agree with Steve Young as well. I mean, I think that there's a tremendous amount of pressure on Trey Lance. And like at the beginning of that game against the Raiders, he looked really nervous and fidgety. For a preseason game, that's shocking. But then look what happened from play 9 through play 27. He had 27 total snaps. The first 9 snaps produced 3 3-and-outs and only 1 total yard gained. But after that point, he was really pretty good. And yeah, people are going to remember the 2 near interceptions. But there was I had it down 27 plays that he played against the Raiders. 20 of them were pass plays, 7 of them were runs. Obviously, you take the runs out of there. Yep. Of the 20 pass plays, 2 broke down because of the offensive line, and you just could not evaluate anything. Nothing could be – you can't say Trey did anything good or bad because the O-line was that bad. One was a dump off to Jordan Mason that he just dropped. And then the rest of them – it was like 50-50 good plays, bad plays, where he overthrew the tight end on the sideline, but then he had other good plays. The touchdown I actually had down as a bad play because it was a deflection. But even Shanahan felt like that was a good play because he wants to see he says, I want to see him let it rip. And I think what Shanahan is saying is kind of touching on what Steve Young is saying, which is Trey Lance is feeling the burden of expectations. And so he's not playing fast. He's trying to be perfect. He's not letting it rip. Like Brock Purdy's thrown a lot of interceptions in this camp, but it's really because he's got the job and he's just letting it rip. He's just like, you know what, I'm going to throw this up there and I'm going to throw the 50-50 ball. And guess what? If it gets tipped and Tayshaun Gibson comes down with it, oh well, I'm going to give my guys a chance and I'm going to let it rip and play with confidence and play fast and be aggressive and attack down the field. Where Darnold, Allen, and Lance have not attacked down the field for the most part. So I agree with both those guys. I think Trey's feeling it. The question is, where's it going to go from here? When I heard John Lynch talking up Brandon Allen and the fact that his wife was having a baby in the pregame, and it just sounded very much like Brandon Allen's going to be on this team. It didn't sound like, hey, this is a guy we're going to cut in 10 days or trade in 10 days. So that kind of made me go, that's kind of interesting. And the fact of the matter is, it's like I look at Sam Darnold. If you had asked me going into the game, I said it meant for everybody to hear. I mean, a bunch of times I felt like Trey Lance had outplayed Sam Darnold in camp up till the game. Yeah. But then when we watched the game, I think Sam Darnold outplayed Trey Lance. And now the question is, where is this going? Is Trey Lance, now the national media is starting to pile on. Orlovsky said he was terrible. Somebody else said he's the biggest bust ever. Now we're starting to see people kind of pile on. And to me, it is just that, piling on. It's like they sense that Trey's been a disappointment, and so they're just going to run with it. But I don't get that sense from being around the team. I don't get that sense from listening to Shanahan or from talking to Lynch. So, and I'm not talking to them directly and off the record, but they just seem to be much more positive about Trey Lance than the national media. Where do you think this is going, Ryan?
So what I see is a kid who has improved mechanically and regressed with confidence. And I think a lot of that confidence is, look what he's been through, right? He's played 3.25 games. He's been injured twice. He's just coming back from an ankle injury. He hears, trust me, he hears what everyone is saying for him. He's 23 years old. Do you know what kind of mental fortitude you have to hear all of this stuff and still believe in yourself anyways, right? It takes a lot. And part of the quarterback position, a main part of the quarterback position is confidence. If you don't have confidence in what you're doing, you're not going to have success. That's why you saw Trey Lance look skittish and nervous in the beginning. And once he got into it, he's like, okay, we're just playing football. And then he started just playing football. But there is definitely a confidence issue with Trey Lance. And I think that's the biggest issue with Trey Lance. And the only way that he's going to gain confidence is by playing and having success. Now, I'm not saying the Niners have to play him to give him the confidence. At this point, he's got to do it on his own, but it's a tough challenge, right? At the end of the day, he's got to say, screw everything and believe in himself. Ultimately, that's what it's going to boil down to. But you can also, as a coach and as an organization, assist with that. Now, I don't know what Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch and the organization are telling Trey Lance behind closed doors, but I know what they've accepted, what they've treated as acceptable in public. And that's why I was glad that Jack Hammer asked a question today. I do wish he would have listed the specific quote so he could have got a more specific answer from Kyle, but I was glad that he asked that question because I think the organization has a responsibility in this. Now, Larry, I coached basketball for 10 plus years. I think I coached my last game a couple weekends ago. A big part of what I did was build the confidence in my players. Now, we're talking about high school. They're not professionals making millions of dollars that you would expect to have to be able to do that on their own. But if you want to get the most out of your players, if Kyle Shanahan wants to get the most out of Trey Lance, he needs to build that confidence. If he wants to, he can say, no, I'm going to leave him and let him do that. But I think he would have more success if he made it a goal to pull that confidence out of Trey Lance, put him in situations where he can find success in the preseason. Tell him, I don't know what he's telling him behind closed doors, but I hope he's telling him, like, don't listen to this shit. We believe in you, et cetera, because that's what this guy needs to hear. He hears all this stuff. I know that for a fact, and I know it's weighing on him. So 49ers got to do a better job. And again, maybe behind closed doors, Larry, they're doing things that I don't know about that are assisting him with this. But we don't see it publicly. And I think the fans need to see it. I think these national media people need to see it as well.
Jack Hammer asked the question today that Rye's referring to during the presser after practice. And the question was, hey, the national media are kind of taking Trey to task, saying that he doesn't have what it takes to be a quarterback. And what do you think of the criticism being thrown in his direction? It was kind of a general question. And Shanahan said, something that some people would say is insensitive. He says, well, it comes with the territory. It kind of comes with the territory of playing quarterback in the NFL. Then he went on to say that, about Trey, he said he's smart. He knows how the world works. He's not naive. He sees and hears it all and understands where some of it's coming from and what he didn't offer an opinion on. He basically made it seem like Trey is aware of it, but he never really got into what kind of impact it's having, if any, on Trey. And I don't know that maybe Kyle doesn't even know, or maybe and maybe it's all just speculation. I just see a young player with the weight of the world on his shoulders.
Correct.
And everything just seems so negative when you really think about it. I mean, if you say Justin Fields, people are like, Justin Fields, I love that guy. He's awesome. I'm looking at it right now on Twitter. He's got a 79.7 career quarterback rating, and people are celebrating Justin Fields like he's, the next great young quarterback.
Right.
Trey Lance has a better career quarterback rating. He's an 84.5 career quarterback rating, and people are just lining up to say that he's horrible. I mean, it's amazing. Now, as far as where it goes from here, that's the question, because are the 49ers going to – I thought Trey Lance would play well in the preseason. He didn't play well in that first game. He played better as the game went on. But overall, I would still say it was subpar performance. Mm-hmm. If he plays well in these next two games, does that mean he's more likely to be here or more likely to be moved away from here? I mean, that's the part I don't get a good feeling about the 49ers, because literally their moves, if you just study their moves, who's got the job security in any office? The person who was most recently hired, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's going to fire Lois. They just hired her last Friday.
Right.
So, you know what I mean? Well, that's Sam Darnold playing Lois in this comparison. Mm-hmm. He's the guy who just arrived, so he's probably not going anywhere. As far as Brandon Allen, he could be an insurance policy against an injury. I could see incentives, or why he'd be incentivized to come here, even if he doesn't make this roster. Mm-hmm. But the way Lynch talked about him the other night, his wife had a baby, and like, we're so excited for him. He made it seem like they're fast friends and old buddies, and they have this. He's got this vested interest in seeing Brandon Allen on the team. So I don't know what to make of it. I really don't. I mean, and I don't see it. Matt Barrows was asked about it the other day, and he said, I just don't see a burgeoning trade market developing for Trey Lance, and I don't either. Mm-hmm. But then you've got Mike Silver and others saying, hey, look, Kyle, it doesn't matter if you're going to get a good price or not. If you decided that you'd rather have Brandon Allen than Trey Lance coming off the bench for you, then you should just go with Brandon Allen, say goodbye to Trey Lance, and just take the negativity that comes that invariably is going to be coming your way, because it will stamp it official that pick was a bad pick. Mm-hmm. What do you think the options are here? I mean, how do you see this coming down? Because I could picture a trade, but at the same time, I don't think I would make a trade based on, I don't think he's worth enough in a trade to make me intrigued. I think he's worth more to them as an insurance policy than he would be to them as a trade. And I'll say this, and I've said this, I've maintained this all the way through. I don't want to move this guy unless I'm getting some piece to the puzzle that's going to help me win the Super Bowl this year. Otherwise, I don't to me, the insurance on the quarterback is more important than almost anything you could get. It's definitely more important to me than a third-round pick in next year's draft. It's not like I'm sitting there going, ooh, third. Somebody's offering a fifth. No, but hey, a third? I'll take no, I think I'd rather have Trey Lance and what he represents as insurance on my bench than just a third. But if you're going to offer me something that's going to help me win the Super Bowl this year, now I'd have to listen. I just don't know there's a team out there that would offer that.
To me, honestly, the entire 49ers quarterback situation is a little scary to me, Larry, because for multiple reasons. One, I need to see Brock Purdy in the game again. Maybe I'll feel better after we see the preseason. I need to see that he is back to what he was last year. I need to see that. I saw him in practice, but it was early. You see him every day. Maybe you think he is, but I just need to see it. I also need to see, regardless of the injury from Brock Purdy, if he can continue to play at that level where he was playing last year. If Brock Purdy can play at the level he played at last year, and I see there's nothing wrong with his arm, I'll be all in on Brock Purdy. I promise you that, because there's not a lot to not – Brock Purdy doesn't leave a lot to be desired, honestly, right? My one complaint about Brock Purdy all the time was his arm strength, to throw the deep ball, to throw into tight windows. I am concerned hearing about the interceptions that he has in practice. I'm wondering if that is an effect of this injury. So I just want to see it play out with Brock Purdy, because there is a scenario, however unlikely, that Brock Purdy is not the real deal like they thought, right? We have to see it play out in order to know. And if that is what happens, then what? You're left with Sam Darnold? That's a scary thought if you trade Trey Lance. Now, to me, if Trey Lance plays the way he did last game in the preseason, there's not a trade market for Trey Lance. Who's going to want to trade for Trey Lance if he plays like he did in the last game? I don't think there's many out there that need it. There's been no injuries to quarterbacks. There's no need for Trey Lance out there, especially if he's going to play the way he did last week. I personally, if I'm Trey Lance, I want to be traded. I think Trey Lance should be traded. I really believe that now, because I don't think he's going to get an opportunity to do what he needs, which is to play, regardless, allowed to make mistakes. So a team that says, hey, we're going to build around you. You are the future. Go out there and play. If you make mistakes, so what? You're going to learn and grow as you go. Because I think if he got that and he found a little bit of success, he would build his confidence and he could reach the potential that we all see in him. But as long as Brock Purdy stays healthy and as long as he plays like he did last year, I don't see that situation unfolding for Trey Lance. But unfortunately, I don't see a trade market for him either. Are they just going to cut Trey Lance? I highly doubt that. I really don't see that happening. So who knows what's going to happen? I think me and you had a wager about, I said he's not going to be traded. And I still don't think he's going to be, just because I don't see who's going to trade for him there.
I know. I mean, Tampa, the Raiders, the Falcons, the Commanders, those are the teams that theoretically could have interest. But it's a weird thing. It's like, if you were trading Trey Lance right now, what's his value? what's he worth? I mean, what do you think he's worth right now?
After last week, if you're just basing it on what have you done for me lately, he's probably worth fifth or sixth or even a seventh right now.
So that means there's no way you're moving him for that.
Right.
There's no reason to move him for that.
Right.
To me, the only way it makes sense to move Trey Lance would be in a deal that, and this is if you wanted to move him. I don't think it makes any sense to move him for a draft pick. Like a 2024 draft pick in the 5th round. What's that? Come on. And I know people would say, well, hey, you found Brock Purdy in the 7th round. And it's not that these picks have no value, but there's a risk in trading Trey Lance, period. And you're going to take that risk for a 5th round pick, for a 6th round pick. I don't see that. the only kind of deals I could see making sense would be if the 49ers got a piece to the puzzle that they believe in. Chase Young, Montez Sweat, a defensive end. They need a defensive end or an offensive tackle or offensive lineman.
Yeah.
I would say if they could get a really, a good defensive lineman or offensive lineman, maybe that was 1 year in front of free agency. Maybe something like that, something where they could look their fans in the eye and say, you know what, this makes sense. I mean, we're actually getting better here. We're actually have a better chance to win the Super Bowl because we're trading a quarterback that wasn't going to play for us in our estimation, and we get a defensive end that we're going to be able to play in a rotation. The only other one, and my kids always rip me for it, for bringing this one up, and I'll bring it up anyway, even though I know I'm going to get ripped. And that is, and I'll just put this one here. Muff D says, compare Lance to Zach Wilson. I kind of look at this point, you're saying, hey, I think, if I was Trey Lance, I'd want out. Well, here's the question. What's in Trey Lance's best interest? Is it in his best interest to play right now when he looks like he's not prepared to play and maybe be on a bad team and lose? I think if he goes on a bad team, let's just say this. He didn't play last year, and he's dramatically better this year than last year. So he's somehow improved without playing. But all I'm saying is if let's just say the Jets said, hey, Zach Wilson's persona non grata here. We'll take Trey Lance. The one thing about New York that's intriguing is that he doesn't have to play right away. He could sit behind Aaron Rodgers, and nobody would say, "Oh my God, Trey Lance is a failure. He's not playing." Everybody would just be like, "Of course he's not playing. They've got Aaron Rodgers." So in a way, it would be like a new lease on life. The only reason I even bring that up is because before the draft, I interviewed Steve Young, and Steve Young knows Zach Wilson from being a BYU star, and they're both BYU star quarterbacks. And he was like convinced that Zach wanted the Niners and that the Niners wanted Zach. And all I'm saying is I don't know that. To me, it kind of reminds me of A.J. Jenkins when the Niners drafted him in the first round, and then they had him for a few years. It didn't work out. And what did they do? They traded him for another wide receiver that also was in a similar situation. Well, to me, unless you're going to get raked over the coals, I think the only kind of trade that you could possibly make that wouldn't make people rake you over the coals is if you got a player back, or if you got if you made the kind of move that a Zach Wilson Trey Lance swap. Some people would say, everybody's going to argue for whatever they like. I mean, if you like Zach Wilson, you're going to say, the Jets would never do that. If you like Trey Lance, you're going to say, the Niners should never do that. If you look at them both right now, both of these guys are talented young quarterbacks whose stock is in the floor, falling through the floorboards.
Are you watching Hard Knocks, Larry?
Yeah, I have watched the first two, and I know he seems to be kind of putting it together around
the point I was going to make
around Rodgers, but I don't know that's another reason, Ryan, that I brought it up, because to me that relationship seems kind of frosty between Rodgers and
here's why I asked you, Larry,
Zach.
Whoever is behind Aaron Rodgers right now is better off. Zach Wilson is better off behind Aaron Rodgers because Aaron Rodgers is teaching him. He's taking him to school. Whoever is behind Brock Purdy, Trey Lance. There's a lot of things Brock Purdy does well, but you're talking about a Hall of Fame quarterback in Aaron Rodgers. Trey Lance isn't learning what Aaron Rodgers is teaching Zach Wilson right now. So it's ideal for Zach Wilson to stay put. It'd be great for Trey Lance. It'd be fantastic for Trey Lance to go learn from Aaron Rodgers for a couple of years. So whoever gets in that situation to stay put. But
don't you think Zach Wilson's going to want to play like sooner than Trey? I mean, I think Trey needs at least a year or two. And I think if you put him in, if you said to me, map out success for Trey Lance, I think I've seen him get better from year 1 to year 2. I think if he had a chance to sit with no pressure and just learn, and new lease on life, fresh start, learn behind a master like Rodgers, I think sitting for the next 2 years is actually you could convince me it's in his best interest, as opposed to going to Atlanta or Tampa and maybe being in a really bad team and playing right away, but playing poorly, maybe taking a lot of sacks. I just don't, to me, he looks like a guy that has a lot of talent and a lot of upside, but he's not ready. Like, to me, it's not a debate anymore who should start between week one, between Lance and Purdy, because Purdy's so much more ready to play now. But to me, that doesn't mean that Lance is not ready to play or going to be ready to play at some point. I'd push back equally hard on the people who say Lance should start in week one. I'd push back and say, no, it should be Purdy. But if you're going to sit there and shout at me, hey, Lance is a bust, I'd push back just as hard and say, I'm pretty convinced he's not going to be a bust. Well, so I just think he needs some time. And right now, it's like, you're right. Steve Young's right. Every throw it's like he knows is going to be counted. I feel like Lance was more free last year in camp. He's better this year, but he was freer last year. Last year he took shots down the field. Last year he aired it out. This year he doesn't want to take those shots. And I don't know if it's the offense has changed, but he goes underneath a ton. And I just think that he's thinking, I want to complete passes, keep my team on the field, don't make mistakes. You know, you make mistakes when you throw it down the field. I don't know, but I don't think I would want to trade him for a pick, and I don't know that it's in his best interest to be the third string guy behind Sam Darnold. And so if that is really his predicament, if I was him, I'd want out. And if I wanted out, where do I want to go? I think I want to go somewhere where I don't get on the field until I'm ready to play. And I think in New York, that would be a spot where they literally could give him a couple years. And they want to go with Aaron Rodgers for the next 2 years. And I think that almost jives perfectly with when I think Trey's going to be kind of ready to flourish, where I think Zach Wilson's going to be like, dude, I want to get in there right now. And maybe he's not an ideal fit here either. But Steve seemed to believe getting into that draft that he wanted to be a Niner and that the Niners really wanted Zach Wilson. If he's right, what do you think of that? What would you think of a Zach Wilson Trey Lance swap? And how do you think the fans would react?
I think it'd be great for Trey Lance to go somewhere else, and I think it'd be great to be behind Aaron Rodgers. I don't know how the fans would react, but I think it's the best thing for Trey Lance to go somewhere else. I really believe that. And I want to see, Kyle Shanahan needs to sink or swim with the choices he's making. And for the record, I've always said that if Brock Purdy was healthy, he deserves to start week one. He's earned it based on what he did in games. I'm not here to make an argument that Trey Lance needs to start over Brock Purdy in week one. I've never tried to make that argument. That's not where I stand. But I do think Trey Lance needs to play more than anything. Geno Smith took more snaps last season, than Trey Lance has taken in high school, college, and the NFL combined. I think the number one thing he needs is to play. So he needs to go somewhere where he can play, wherever that may be. That's what the best thing is for Trey Lance, in my opinion, regardless of what's better for the 49ers. Now, in the long run, I don't know. It may not matter for the 49ers if Brock Purdy is who they say he is. If he really is the real deal, then who cares about Trey Lance if Brock Purdy is that guy that they say he is? But as far as Trey Lance is concerned, he definitely should go somewhere else, in my opinion. I think that's exactly what he needs to do.
Yeah, Geno Smith's an interesting name. Geno Smith was a bust, and now he's not. And I don't think last year was accidental.
So therefore, he never was, right?
It just kind of goes to show that we want to make these judgments very, very fast, right. And yet the position is really, really difficult, and it takes a lot of physical and mental reps to master it. And it's like we just decide. Even with Sam Darnold, we've kind of decided early, even though he's played more than Trey has. We've decided about a 25-year-old guy who was a top 5 pick that he sucks, and he's 25. Steve Young was 6 years older when he finally flourished with the Niners. He was 31. And God knows, I looked up all these Hall of Fame quarterbacks. It's pretty much the rule with these Hall of Fame quarterbacks. Hardly any of them ever started fast. I just think we're so cognizant of what Mahomes did in his first year as a starter, that everything's about, get that quarterback in a rookie deal and you'll get the next Mahomes. But Mahomes is the exception, not the rule, man. And I just think that we should just pump the brakes. I think if people were a little bit more patient, but they're just not. I mean, I did a huge post-game show after the preseason game against the Raiders. I'd say 90% of the people were just bashing on Trey. It's done. He's over. Trade him. He sucks. He's this. And it's like, I get it. He didn't have a great start to the game, and he looked a little fidgety. He had not played since September of the previous year. That was his first live action. And where's the understanding of that? It's nowhere. It's like, who cares? I want it. I want it now. It's an instant gratification world. Mahomes was good right away. Why is this guy not good right away? It's like, well, this guy played 1 year of football since high school, and this guy is coming out of the FCS level. And, it's like there were reasons for Trey Lance to take more time than the average quarterback, but it's like people don't want to acknowledge that there were real reasons, and now that it hasn't happened instantaneously, now it's like, he's a bust. Can't do it. Never will be able to do it. And it's like, I see a guy who's getting way, way better and who checks all the boxes. He's big enough. He's strong enough. He's smart enough. He's fast enough. He's athletic enough. He wants it enough. He cares about it enough. All these boxes are checked. So to me, it's just a matter of time before he gets it. I just wonder, will the 49ers show the patience? And I guess the bigger question, Ryan, is in the cap era, can you show the patience? I mean, can they if he was going to be good in 2 years, and the Niners knew that, they knew absolutely Trey Lance is going to be good in 2 years, would they take the cap hits this year, next year, and maybe the year after to keep him on the roster? Or does his money get to a point because of the way the cap's structured that this is the last year that they would keep him on the roster? And this year he's at $9 million. If he's the third-string quarterback, he'll make 9 times what the other third-string quarterbacks in the league all make.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, to me, what he makes is kind of irrelevant because of how little Brock Purdy makes. To me, I'm more concerned about the quarterback room, right? I don't really care about the $9 million for Trey Lance. So to me, that doesn't really matter when Brock Purdy's not even hitting the cap. So it's just really about, if you don't believe in him, if Kyle Shanahan does not believe in him or his potential in the future, then they just need to move on. If they think they found the real deal with Brock Purdy, they need to move on and go with Brock Purdy. That's what they should definitely do, regardless. Do it however you want to do it. But I think this is creating problems for the organization, honestly, for within the fan base. It's too much drama. If Brock Purdy is the real deal and that's your guy, move on from Trey Lance, give him a fresh start somewhere else. Let him go play football, because that's ultimately what he needs. That's what's going to make him better. It's the best thing for Trey Lance, and it could be the best thing for this organization. Go all in on Brock Purdy. Move on from Trey Lance. I really feel that way now.
Have the 49ers done Trey wrong? Have they not supported him the way he needs to be supported, or have they blown this? How much blame, I guess, do you put on Shanahan and Lynch for the way this thing has come down? Have they blown it, or is this all situational and really neither of those guys is to blame?
The way I look at it, here's the thing. If you're mad that Trey Lance is on this team, you should be mad at Kyle Shanahan for bringing him on the team, not Trey Lance. That's the real thing in regards to blame. If these guys in the chat, you got a lot of these guys in the chat, if you don't like Trey Lance on this team, you need to direct your anger where it's appropriately should be directed, which is Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. They're the guys that drafted Trey Lance. Trey Lance did not draft himself. So I think first and foremost, that needs to be like, why is all the anger at Trey Lance? Trey Lance didn't draft himself to the 49ers. Kyle Shanahan drafted Trey Lance. So if you're frustrated with him being on the team, then direct it towards the person who drafted him. That's the first thing. As far as through his career trajectory, I think they should have dumped Jimmy Garoppolo and went all in on Trey Lance the first season. Now he hurt his finger, so that kind of hindered things. I don't blame them for his finger injury. But what I didn't like is the fact that Trey Lance was never going to work out as a dual threat quarterback in the NFL. I never thought he was a dual threat quarterback, and I don't understand why Kyle Shanahan thought that. If that's what you wanted, you should have gotten Fields, because Trey Lance is not a dual threat quarterback. It's not his strength. And the way that they used him, I do blame Kyle Shanahan for that injury. I think that was dumb to run your quarterback that you just spent all this draft capital, who's not even that good at running, through the middle 13 and a half times a game. It's absurd. So I do blame that part on him. Absolutely. But after that, Brock Purdy came and balled out. And so he's kind of forced his hand. You have to go with Brock Purdy. I'm a coach. If I had a guy that came in and won 7, 8 games, whatever it is, straight like Brock Purdy did, by all means, that's the guy who needs to keep playing until he shows that he can't do it anymore. So I don't blame them for that. Like, I don't think Trey Lance should be starting this year. That's not the case. But there is some of this stuff to blame. If you couldn't recognize that Trey Lance, more than anything, needed time on the field and development, if they couldn't recognize that, then that's their mistake. That's what Trey Lance needed. He needed to go to a team that was going to play him and let him develop on the field. That's what he needed. And not as a dual threat quarterback, because the talents that he showed at NDSU were not going to work in the NFL. And it frustrates me because I don't understand why Kyle Shanahan couldn't recognize that.
Yeah, I'm a little frustrated I'm definitely frustrated by the way they used him. Hated the quarterback power, hated it. Didn't understand it, said so at the time. Even if you liked it, it wasn't going to be sustainable. But part of it is situational. But yeah, they drafted one of the rawest young quarterback prospects, and and with the long range view that this guy would be the best in time. And if I don't blame them for taking him. I would blame them if they got rid of him before seeing this through to completion and didn't get something that was better or that helped them win or that was significant. Because to me, it's like, what you're now telling me that the raw quarterback is raw? Okay. And I would say you should have known. Right. And also, I didn't like the way they groomed him until this year. I like the way they're grooming him now, which is, let him play from the pocket. Right. Treat him like he's Jimmy or Sam or any other quarterback. This idea that you're gonna run him, come on. I mean, the guy didn't even.
He's not Lamar Jackson. He's not Michael Vick. He's a quarterback that can run. Right.
He can scramble.
He can scramble. Exactly. That's who he is. And I recognized that from the very beginning. I don't know why Kyle Shanahan was unable to do that. That's negligence. I'm telling you what, though, Larry, Brock Purdy is saving Kyle Shanahan's ass right now. That's a fact. Because if Brock Purdy wasn't around and Trey Lance didn't work out, that's a fireable offense. Name another coach in the NFL that could spend 3 first-round draft picks and bust that hard on them, not develop them, fail miserably, and still have job security. If it wasn't for Brock, Purdy saving him.
Brock Purdy has changed the whole narrative. It's changed the whole feeling. Not to mention that, what they also wanted, I think the Niners were more committed to having a quarterback on a rookie deal than they were committed to any one prospect. I think they decided that they wanted a quarterback on a rookie deal so they could keep Ayuk and keep Bosa and keep Debo and keep all these great players they had, more so than they said, hey, we got to have Trey Lance. So once they had Brock Purdy and he kind of checks all the boxes, hey, he's making the rookie money and you can still keep all these guys, I think they were going to be satisfied. And then the fact of the matter is he's played at a really high level, and now they're wed to Brock. But I like the way they're bringing Trey along this year way more than last year, because last year it was like, hey, we're going to drop him 3 yards deep and without any lead blockers, he's just going to start running between the tackles and picking and sliding like he's Marcus Allen in his prime. And it's like, dude, that's not his game. The game against Arizona was so revealing to me, because in that game he ran 16 times and 7 of them were designed runs and 9 of them were scrambles. In the 7 designed runs, he averaged 3.2 yards per carry, and he took a hit all 7 times. In the 9 scrambles, he averaged like over 13 yards per carry and took a hit only 1 of every 3 times. He only took 3 hits in 9 carries. So it's like he's a pocket player who's got the ability to scramble and make plays off schedule. He's not Lamar. He's not Vic. He's not even a young Steve Young. So I think that they they made the adjustment, but unfortunately it cost him a year. Let's hit a couple supers here. Hakeem the Dream. Hey, Hakeem, he says Trey has been treated poorly by the media, but nobody quarterback has endured as much as Alex Smith did, and Killian and Lil Cone used to torment Alex. Alex, another guy. I mean, I kind of see a lot of Trey and Alex. They're both great prospects on paper. Alex Smith didn't figure it out till his 8th year. I mean, that's the other reason. That's another guy who, and I love what Alex Smith said in Tahoe to Mayoko a few weeks ago. He dispelled the notion that Brock Purdy was a one-hit wonder. He's like, hey, the guy can process. He's accurate, and the ball comes out on time. I think it's sustainable. I think he's real. That's what he said about Brock. But when it came time to talk about Trey, he's like, Trey's a great guy. Trey's a really good young prospect. It's going to take him time because of his situation. But he has great hope for Trey's future. And I read that and I thought, you know what? I agree with Alex Smith on both fronts. I agree with him about Purdy and I agree with him about Trey.
Yeah.
Saul Goodman says Mike Lombardi's comment had racial undertones, in my opinion. Saul, you're not the only person that felt that way.
Yeah.
Jared Parkinson says, did you see the JT O'Sullivan breakdown? Trey trying down throws that were there. Your thoughts? I heard that he was scathing.
It's the confidence. That's what it was. That's what Steve Young was speaking on. He's scared to make a mistake now, right? That's what he was speaking on. That's why he's turning down throws. That's not who he was in the past. That's not who we saw from Trey Lance in the beginning of his career, but now he lost his confidence. He needs to build up his confidence. And Larry, do you mind if I address one person in your comment?
No, please do.
So Reigns red and gold.
Is this a super? Or
no, he's just been going at me throughout this entire thing. He says, Ryan, you're not smart. You spelled your incorrectly. Also said something about my mortgage business.
This one, Reigns says Ryan's takes are not smart.
951 says, Ryan, you're not smart. It's your apostrophe R-E, Reigns. He also attacked my mortgage business. I would be willing to bet I made more this month than you have all year. So be careful who you're talking to. If you want to come on my call-in show, I have one every single week. You can call on face-to-face and say these things.
There it is right there. The one thing about the have you been watching Hard Knocks?
Yeah, man. Love it.
Okay. Robert Saleh from the first edition. If you ain't got no haters, you ain't popping.
Yeah. Love it. Yeah.
I want to make a T-shirt like that.
Yeah.
If you ain't got no haters, you ain't popping.
Yeah.
I that would be my advice to anybody on YouTube.
There's nothing like saying, Ryan, you're not smart, and misspelling your. Come on, dude. Yeah. Seriously. A couple other ones here. Michael Alanes says, you guys in the beat writer field need to stop being overly sensitive with national media criticism and comments on Trey. Kyle has said in his presser today, it comes with the territory. I mean, it's not that any of us are oversensitive. To me, the Lombardi thing is just the verbiage and the way he painted that picture was just kind of annoying. And I didn't like the sound of it. As far as these other guys, I mean, these Orlovskis, and they're all entitled to their opinion. I see a lot of the same issues that a lot of these guys see. But once again, where's the perspective? Go take a look at every Hall of Fame quarterback that's ever played the freaking game. There's like 30 of them. I think maybe 33 of them, which is a low number. Of the 33 guys in the Hall of Fame, like 29 of them started really slow. Yeah.
And when I say started, I mean they were 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years older than Trey Lance is right now before they ever got it. I mean, think of Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers played at Cal, played for Jeff Tedford, played in a pro system, looked good his senior year, right? Beat SC, in the Coliseum, or maybe they lost SC, but they competed with SC in the Coliseum. I think he completed like 17 straight in that game. He was like 23 of 24 in the Coliseum in a 105-degree day. And yet he sat for 4 years behind Brett Favre. And when he first played, he was 6-10. I mean, imagine that. If Trey Lance went 6-10 this year, people would be like, he's a disaster. Joe Montana, I think, went like 2-7 or something like that to start his career.
Yeah.
Trey Lance has started 4 games. He's got 5 touchdowns and 3 picks. It's hardly this ugly, nightmare proven failure that people treat it like. I mean, it's a glimpse, and it's been all right. And I'll say this: my number one pushback on these national people: where the fuck are you? I'm at practice every day.
Right.
You're not there.
Exactly.
And you know what? Mike Florio's like, these people aren't using their eyes and ears. You're not at practice. I'm at practice every day. I'm talking to the players. The guys in the room will follow Trey Lance. They believe in Trey Lance. Now, they believe in Brock Purdy as well. But when Juice went on with Haberman and Middlecoff on their podcast and told them that Trey's beloved in the locker room, he's not BSing. He's respected and beloved by his teammates. They would not respect him, and he would not be beloved if he wasn't the real deal as a person and as a worker. As far as improvement, does he need to make improvement? Yes, and they would all acknowledge it as well. But I don't get the vibe that like if he's on the team or if he were the quarterback, that everybody would just quit on them, or all of a sudden there'd be this mutiny. I don't buy it. I do not buy it. So I just think that the criticism, it's weird. It's almost like these people are anti-49ers and want the Niners to divest themselves of this asset at a loss and have them go somewhere else. And I don't know. I mean, I've heard people suggest that Florio's a Vikings fan and he'd like to see the Vikings pick him up, a hometown discount, so on and so forth. I don't know. I don't know what his motivation is, but it's bizarre that people are so thoroughly down on a player who's so inexperienced.
Yeah, I don't get it, Larry. There's not much we can do to try to make sense of it because it just doesn't make sense.
No. I mean, it does make you wonder the motivation.
Yeah.
Matthew Rowley says everyone calm down about Brock's interceptions. He threw a higher percentage of interceptions last year in training camp. Yeah, I did see that as well. We'll hit Brock in just a second. Caesar says Steve Young said it best today about Trey Lance. Yep, absolutely. Yeah. We just talked about that. Yeah. Easy Tino says people rose Trey for injuries, but Purdy's just the same or worse so far. Why isn't Brock playing this week again? More precautions? That's a good question. Shanahan didn't say for sure.
Yeah, they didn't rule him out completely, but they said it's not likely, I don't think.
And by the way, you had asked me, because I had mentioned that there was talk that Brock was going to play game 3. Mm-hmm. And I said I heard that from Greg Pop on the broadcast. I asked Greg about it yesterday, about a couple minutes later in the press room, and he said that they were speculating, that they don't have a source on that, that they were speculating. So we don't really know if Brock's going to play. But I agree. I think he definitely – I mean, would I put him out there endlessly? No, but I definitely would play him. Flav says, Ryan, what percentage chance did you give Sam Darnold of being quarterback 2 when we made the bet? Did you make a bet with him? And what percentage chance do you give him now? Have you started thinking about dates for our show yet or not there yet? Hey, Larry. What bet did you make with Flav?
So Flav bet me, I think it was in February, who would start more games. Would it be Sam Darnold or Trey Lance? It wasn't about whose QB2 is, who would play more games. I bet him it would be Trey Lance at that time. I still have I don't feel like it's one way or the other. I think it's 50-50 right now. So we'll see, Flav. Hey, maybe you're right. If you're right, it'll be because of luck, not because you knew anything. And I will gladly have you on my show and debate you there. For everyone that wants to jump on me because I'm trying to defend a kid that needs defense, come on my show. You can be real tough in the comments, but come on my show, see me face to face. Let's see if you have that same energy.
And also, people, let's not lose our minds, all right? I mean, seriously, when I said that what I said about the quarterbacks, it's a point of view and an opinion on quarterbacks. When Ryan's saying what he's saying about the quarterbacks, it's the same damn thing. It's an opinion by somebody who's giving you a lot of entertainment on YouTube about quarterbacks. Let's just keep this in perspective. The vitriol, there's really no need for the vitriol. We're all much too mature for that, you would think. Mole's in the house, one of my brothers from Sac State. He said, "What's up, my brother? All this quarterback talk, how concerned are you with our secondary?" Well, that's a good one. I mean, what do you think, Ryan? I mean, I feel good about the Niners secondary because they've got corner depth, but I will say this, I don't feel good about Isaiah Oliver based on what I saw in that Raider game. And based on what I'm hearing from Steve Wilks, it sounds like the Niners are not sold on Isaiah Oliver. His spot on the roster is not guaranteed. And they may just have to go with their top three corners, and I don't think Isaiah Oliver is one of their top three corners.
I'm actually impressed with the corners and not Isaiah Oliver. I wrote Ambry Thomas off. He really flashed for me in that Raider game. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about the undrafted free agent, Jamison. He looks really good.
Yes, how good did he look as a return man, by the way, this weekend?
Excellent. Way better than Ronnie Bell did.
Yeah,
way better than Ronnie Bell did. So there, I think, Diamondor Lenore, Charvarius Ward, Ambry Thomas, Sam Womack, Quantrez. It looks good too. I'm really confident in the 49ers DBs. It may or may not be Isaiah Oliver. I didn't see anything great from Isaiah Oliver at all in that Raiders game, which shocked me. But I think they got enough depth there that they're going to be okay.
Yeah, I was hugely disappointed in Isaiah Oliver. I don't know if he was going 3/4 speed, if he's hurt, if he just wasn't into it or what, but he was in that trail position on the Keelan Cole touchdown. And it's okay to be in a trail position, but when you don't close at all at any point, it's like it looks bad. It looks like you're kind of disinterested or just quit on the play. And this guy's replacing Jimmy Ward. Jimmy Ward, in some ways, was one of the foundation pieces of the team, and now you're going Isaiah Oliver. But based on what I've heard from Wilks, they're not going with Isaiah Oliver unless he steps it up. Ronald Key says Ryan is a Trey glizzy gobbler.
Ronald Keys, come see me in person and tell me that to my face. How about that? I'll let you know. DM me on Twitter. You can meet me in Sacramento, and you can tell me that to my face.
Yeah.
How about that?
There are awful lot of Twitter badasses.
Yeah, but the internet tough guys. Say nothing to me in my face. I promise you that.
It's amazing, though. I've been doing this for, since 1995. I've had a lot of people say some heinous stuff about me, my family, and several other things through the years. But interestingly enough, I've never actually ever had anybody say any of that to my face ever.
Nah. Because they're cowards.
Not once, not at camp, not at a Warrior game, not at a Giant game, not on the street, not in a bar, nowhere. It's
They're
amazing how that works.
J-Mail, tough on the internet. All these guys are tough on the internet, not in real life.
Yeah. But if you are really tough, you don't have to prove it to me if you see me out. Glass half full guy said, "Is it the hip thing to rip Trey and call him a bust now? Seems like a huge overreaction to me. Big fan of you both." I just think, you know what it is? It's like the person who says they're a little bit to blame, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, they've admitted blame. Now we're just going to pile on. That's what I get right now. I think everybody can see that Trey had a bad game, that he was fidgety, he was nervous, and that's year 3, and that everybody's expecting improvement. And so now it's like sharks with a little blood in the water. And now everybody's coming out. Here comes Orlovsky. Here comes J.T. O'Sullivan. Here comes everybody. And they're just going to take their shots. And it's just get ready for more, because there will be more before this goes away.
Right.
Val Ramos, member for 12 months. Thank you, Val. Says, Larry, would you give Trey a contract extension? I would. I would extend him and see this thing through to completion. I don't think I'd extend him at $17 million, but if I could rip up that contract and give him a 3-year deal and say, Trey, stick around, I would do it, because you drafted a raw quarterback that has awesome traits because you believed in the long term you were doing the right thing, and I don't think anything's changed. He's not ready now, but doesn't mean just because he's not ready now doesn't mean he's never going to be ready. And to me, I'd be more afraid of trading him and having him become something somewhere else than keeping him and paying the money. Matthew Rowley, how does one get on your show and at what time? I haven't been mean, but I do strongly disagree with you about Lance.
Oh, I love debating, man. That's the thing. I welcome everyone that wants to debate me onto my show. Hardly anyone shows up, but I would love to have you on. I do a call-in show once per week. It's kind of been changing because I'm trying to adjust due to the off season. But if you go to my channel, you'll see that I do a call-in show once per week, and I keep all my followers posted on when that is.
Bass_Spokane Niner fan says these content creators go out of their way to entertain us and give us quality, in-depth information on our beloved Niners, and Ryan is one of the best. Thank you, guys. Keep up the hard work.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Appreciate that as well. That's very cool. Flav says, love you, Rye, and you're right. I know nothing. Just really lucky. I hope you don't keep betting me because I'll probably lose all the others.
Larry, here's the thing. Flav bet me. So look, if I'm right, I get a $400. It's $450, $500 signed Ronnie Lott jersey. If I'm wrong, I just have to let him come on my show. Who wouldn't take that bet, right?
Yeah,
even if I thought I had a 10% chance, who wouldn't take that bet?
And Ryan and I are going to Pig in a Pickle on me. We'll make that date. We'll make it happen. Okay, a couple last things before we call it quits on this live stream. We appreciate you stopping by, and this has been good stuff. Okay, Brock Purdy. Let's talk about Brock Purdy for a second. He's thrown 10 picks in training camp so far. He had 2 in today's practice. He had another potential one that was dropped. He's now got 10 in training camp. He's got an interception rate of 5.1% in this camp. But for some perspective on this, his interception rate in training camp working against the third team last season was 5.9%, 6 interceptions in 101 attempts. Kyle Shanahan was asked about it today. He says, you never want interceptions in any situation, but I definitely like having interceptions a lot more in practice than in games. One thing Brock does is let it rip. He's definitely not worried about people counting his interceptions in practice. Mm-hmm. So how concerned, I guess, are you about Brock Purdy's picks?
So as far as practice interceptions, I'm not concerned. Now, if he does it in a game, it's concerning. The only thing that's concerning about him doing it in practice is if it continues in games. That's what concerns me in regards to that. But as far as like statting practices, I don't really – it doesn't matter. Now, Kyle Shanahan did say – I have it somewhere here. He did say that he definitely wants the quarterbacks to cut down on them. He's not saying that he wants them to throw more interceptions. It's not like it's a good thing that they're throwing interceptions, but he's not concerned about it. He's glad that they're attacking it. He also said he wants them to practice how they play in games. So obviously he doesn't think it's like a great thing that he's throwing interceptions, but he also looks at it like it's practice. What really matters is what goes down in the games. I, for one, I'm not one of those guys that's making a big deal out of Brock Purdy's interceptions in practice as long as they don't come up in the game, right? That's when it really matters.
You know, it's kind of a weird thing because Brock, I'm looking for common denominators in his interceptions, and you know, he really leans on his receivers. He throws a lot of what we would call 50-50 balls, where he puts it out there for you, and it's like he's looking at his guy to go get it for him. And I see a lot of those. Now, to me, I think he processes well. I think his accuracy is well above average. My big concern is, has he lost any miles per hour on the fastball? If he has, now I'm concerned because he didn't have a fastball to lose. So I am a little concerned about the interceptions. But I got to see them in the game, and I understand what Shanahan's talking about. One of the things that Shanahan doesn't like right now about Trey Lance, or wants to see more of, is that he wants to see Trey let it rip. He wants to see Trey reach back and just don't worry about making mistakes and just compete and get out there and really play and try to play a little faster, try to recognize things a little sooner, but then let it rip and don't pump fake and be cautious. Let it rip and roll with it. Trey's trying to, Trey took care of the football at North Dakota State. He's trying to take care of the football now. So I understand his reticence about letting it go, but I think that's Trey's thing. You got to let it rip. As far as Purdy goes, I'm a little concerned because a couple of them have been in the middle of the field, and they're kind of like balls that kind of hang and don't have a lot of zip. But then when I'm concerned about that, then I'll be standing on the sideline, and he'll throw the deep out, and he'll put a tremendous amount of zip on it and put it in a great window, and I'll be like, no. If he can make that throw, he's got plenty of arm. So I got to see it. I got to see it. I'm not going to feel confident about Brock. That he's 100% back until I see them. Go 3, 4, 5-0, something like that, and he looks good each week.
He needs to play in the preseason, Larry. He really does. I feel like it would be a mistake and not fair to Brock Purdy to just throw him out there against the Steelers when it matters, right? Like put him out there, let him get a couple, like give him half of a quarter. And just let him fill it out, so it's not you don't want it to be the first time against the Steelers.
No doubt, you got to play him in the preseason. Yeah. I would play him. I'd play him at least 2 series in this game, and I'd play him at least 2 series in the next game.
Yes, and can we say something too, real quick, Larry, in regards to Brock Purdy? I feel like, and I tweeted this today. It's not Brock Purdy's fault that Trey Lance is getting this over the top criticism. Right, just like it's not.
They have a great relationship.
So I've heard from someone that Brock Purdy used to spend hours and hours at Trey Lance's house last season, and Trey was helping him learn the playbook. They're good friends. One of the best things I saw when I was at training camp is it was a rest day for Brock Purdy. Trey Lance was about to take the field, and Brock said something to him. They gave each other 5, and you could tell that Brock was encouraging him, right? Just because you like Trey Lance doesn't mean you need to attack Brock Purdy, and vice versa. Just because you think Brock Purdy is the real deal doesn't mean that you need to attack Trey Lance. These are human beings with families and feelings that see everything you guys say about them, and I just think the 49ers fan base needs to cool it down with that stuff.
Totally. And, and I hate to say this because I don't mean this in a malicious way, but the players are laughing at you. You know what? Like if you're a Brock Purdy fan and you're ripping Trey Lance, Brock Purdy's laughing at you. If you're a Trey Lance fan and you're ripping Brock Purdy, Trey Lance is laughing at you. He's not with you. It's like this idea that I'll just rip and Trey's with me if I'm ripping. No, he's not. And Brock's not with you either. And if you're ripping Sam Darnold, they ain't with you on that either. These guys are all relatively young guys, all trying to find their way in the NFL, and they got a good vibe in their room, and they got a good trust among each other, and they're not, are they competing? Yes. Yeah. But they don't want you to rip the other guy. Yeah. They really don't. And at the end of the day, if you're a Trey Lance fan, why are you a Trey Lance fan? Because you're a Niner fan and they drafted Trey Lance. Right. If you're a Sam Darnold fan, why are you a Sam Darnold fan? Because you're a Niner fan and the Niners signed Sam Darnold. If you're a Purdy fan, why are you a Purdy fan? Because you're a Niner fan and the Niners drafted Brock Purdy. That's why you're the fan of these guys. Don't forget the origin of your fandom. Yeah. You're not fans of these guys because you were their second grade buddy. You're fans of them because they're on the Niners, and they're all on the Niners. Yeah. So I hate this guy versus that guy. I'm so wed to this guy that I'm just going to create all this negativity about the other guy. Come on, man. I mean, are you a Niner fan? I mean, I got to question that. I got to question your kind of your motives at that point. A couple more supers before we get out of here. Frank Tom Ocean, like Vish says, all love here. There you go. Vish and me and Jesse tomorrow night. Michael Alanis, Larry, they looked at 3 offensive tackles today. Do they regret not drafting Dawan Jones, or does it show that they're concerned with the lack of O-line depth? Yeah, I was going to mention this before we got out of here as well. Yeah. I have the list in front of me. Yeah, the Niners worked out, and it was guys I really hadn't heard of. Jesse Davis, Rashad Hill, and Ty Nasiki. And they're all offensive tackles. I'll say this. I think the 49ers are going to, and I've been saying this for a month, the 49ers don't have their swing tackle on the roster. To me, based on what I've seen, you got your 5 starters: Trent, Burford, Banks, Brendel, McKivitz. You're going to have 8 total offensive linemen on your team and then a few more on the practice squad. I think your backup offensive linemen, based on what I've seen, Feliciano, Big John Feliciano, can play center in both guard spots. He covers you on all 3 spots inside. I think they'll go with him. I think the guy who was awesome today in practice, who I'm just absolutely starting to really like on a high level, is Ilm Manning, the former left tackle from Hawaii, who is not a left tackle. I mean, at the pro level, he's 6'2", 295. He's not 6'8", 335. But he's got experience playing left tackle, and he moves exceptionally well, and he can play guard, and he can play center. I think it's going to be Feliciano and Ilm Manning, and I think they are going to either sign or trade for a swing tackle. I don't think it's Jalen Moore. I don't think it's Matt Pryor. I don't think it's Leroy Watson. I don't see any of those guys. Nick Sakel's been disappointing. I don't think they're swing tackles on the roster. I don't know if any of these guys are their swing tackle either, but I'm pretty confident that they don't have that guy on the team right now. And do they regret not drafting Dawan Jones over instead of Cam Latu or Jake Moody? Yeah, I bet you they would rather have Dawan Jones. But Dawan Jones did himself no favors because right before the draft, when scouts were asking him about the NFL, he said his dream was to play in the NBA.
Well, hey, that's a good thing for offensive lineman, for a tackle, right? That means you're mobile. I mean, I don't know about you, Larry. I'm sure you were, because it seems like all of us were saying that they need to go after a tackle in the draft, and we were all surprised when it didn't happen. So.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say is that I do know that most good tackles are taken in the first 25 picks, and they didn't have a pick until the 80s or 90. So it's like, odds are most of the top tackles that could play right away are going to be gone. But yeah, Dawan Jones would have been a great investment. That Blake Freeland from BYU, I think he would have been good. Jalen Duncan from Maryland would have been nice. It would have been nice, especially after watching Latu drop a lot of passes. Flav says, I would have bet a lot more Rye. It was a lock. Okay. Matt at New York, San Francisco 49er fan. This show is called Pig and a Dunk. Respect. Thank you. And Ronald Key says, Ryan, I'm 6'3", 230, and family from the Bay and live right in Sac. Drop the Addy. I promise you. I'd say it. So you say
I'm 6'3", 232, man. Ain't nobody worried about
I'd
you.
say it to your face, but you won't do nothing. Definitely can meet up. All right, Rye. And Ronald, let's pump the brakes. Rye's a family man with multiple kids. We don't need to be brawling over this stuff. It's not worth fighting over, guys. At the end of the day, let's be honest. Clarence Beeks, I'm sick of what they've done to me. That's a Radnich line from way back. Flav, no one hates Trey or Purdy, but the quarterback competition has become synonymous with your football intelligence. If Ryan and others admitted I knew something about football, I'd probably shut up.
I'm not willing to admit that, Flav.
Okay. Reigns, red and gold. Ryan, I apologize once again, man.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Look at that. Look at that, an apology. All right, last topic before we end this thing. Matt Miller, by the way, says Brock Purdy is a $1 million version of Kirk Cousins. He said that's what a scout texted me tonight, and I honestly died laughing. It's also a good high-level comp. If Purdy becomes as good as Cousins, that would be a huge win for the Niners. I don't know. Cousins has had good days and bad days, more bad than good, and he hasn't done it in the playoffs. What is your, outside of quarterback and offensive line, do you have a concern about this 49er team? Is there a topic, Rye, that you see that we haven't touched here and that we haven't talked a lot about this summer that you think, 2, 3, 4 weeks in, we're going to be talking about and saying, God, remember in August when all we could talk about was quarterbacks? We didn't talk about this problem. Do you see a problem looming for the Niners? And if so, what is it?
I mean, honestly, it's the same thing that it's been for a long time. I don't think it's quarterback, right? How is that going to work out? It's offensive line, particularly depth, particularly on the right side, and it's health. The 49ers got to stay healthy, especially this year. I think that's key more than ever because I don't think the depth is as strong as it has been in the past. I think this year, more than ever, they got to stay healthy. And really key, CMC, Elijah Mitchell, those guys got to stay healthy, right? And Elijah Mitchell has a lot of problems not being healthy. And CMC basically flipped this entire offense when he came, and they need CMC. He's crucial to the success of this team. So outside of that, I think we all know. I think a majority of fans know what the issues are for the 49ers. So we're just going to have to see it play out and hope for the best.
I'm very concerned about the backup D-line because I think you lost a lot losing the 3 guys they lost. Yeah. I asked Kerry Hyder today after practice because he was on the podium, and I said, Kerry, you're one of the veterans on that D-line. There's a lot of young faces in that room. Of the young guys, who stood out to you the most? Mm-hmm. And I like that kind of a question because it makes the guys kind of actually think of they got to think right then and there. Who has stood out to me? And the 2 guys that he said were Robert Beale Jr., who today beat Trent Williams from right defensive end for a sack of Brock Purdy. And he also said Marlon Davidson. And Marlon Davidson, I thought, looked good against the Raiders. So I'm encouraged that those 2 guys might be, nice players for the Niners. But I got to be honest, I'm a little concerned about losing a Menahue and Jordan Willis and Ebukam. And then, Breeland Speaks, to me, looks out of shape. Mm-hmm. Taco Charlton, is on his 8th team. Austin Bryant.
The 49ers got a little bit of money to play with still, Larry. So
I know. They do. Yeah. So
just like Tashawn Gibson, he signed, I think, a week before the deadline, right? So it's entirely possible they make a move again for somebody like
Clowney.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe. How did Taco look today? How was Taco?
Taco looks great, but I was saying this last week on the stream. It's like Taco's like that girl you meet in the bar, and she's everything. She's smart. She's incredible. She's beautiful. She's smart. She's kind. She's everything you could ever want. And then as you're walking her to her car, she's like, "Yeah, I've been married 5 times." And then you're like, oh, gosh, married 5 times. There's got to be some issue here. Yeah. Uh-oh, now what's the deal? I mean, Taco looks awesome. He wins in the one-on-ones. He's got a spin move that's really nasty. He can make some of these offensive linemen just look, he'll tie him into a pretzel. I mean, they cannot block him in the one-on-ones. And then you look up and you're like, this guy, the Niners are his 8th team. And it's like, well, wait a second. So I'm a little worried about that.
I have a friend who's a really good friend, one of my good friends I grew up with in Vallejo. He's a Cowboys fan somehow. I don't know how the hell he became a Cowboys fan, but his take on Taco Charlton was very talented guy, didn't seem to care about football. And so maybe now he does, maybe he's matured, but that's what his take was on. Like, he could have been really good, but it didn't seem like he gave a damn about football.
Chris might be able to get it out of him. I mean, look at Chris. He got it out of Arden Key. He got it out of Ebukam. He got it out of Menahue. He got it. I mean, he seriously, if you have any talent, it seems like Kasarik will be able to get it out of you. But I would say Breeland Speaks to me is not in good enough shape. I mean, he doesn't look good at all. But Austin Bryant's a little thin in the legs. The 2 guys that really keep winning all the time in the one-on-ones are Taco and Alex Barrett. Barrett is interesting because he's been on the practice squad the last couple of years, but man, this guy has got some talent. Yeah. Cleveland Farrell had a good game against the Raiders. He's a guy to watch. And then Beale. I mean, Beale, I'll tell you this, Beale, if the Niners really want to have the kind of line that is scary, you may want to go with Beale as a major player up front. Why? Because if you already have Hargrave and Armstead and Bosa, and you could add a legitimate 4-4 speedster opposite Bosa, that just stretches that line and I think just opens up all kinds of gaps. So I realize Drake Jackson's the guy they have penciled in to start, and he probably will. Mm-hmm. But after watching Beale just absolutely blitz by Trent Williams today, there's some serious high-end potential there. I mean, this guy was like, wow. Yeah. Was he hurt when you went to practice?
He was. I didn't get to see him practice.
Yeah, you got to see this guy. I mean, he's 6'4", 255, and he's just lightning fast.
Yeah, that's exciting. I mean, but you just laid out how you're worried about the depth, but then you also laid out a bunch of good guys, right? So
Yeah.
so maybe it'll
Well,
work out.
it's like it's like I am worried about the depth because you know why? Because when I interviewed Kosaric, I said, "Are you going to play your ones more?" And he's like, "No, I'm not." So in other words, the depth they had really quality depth last year. They better be able to have quality depth this year because they're going to play these guys. So like, I'm not as concerned about the backup O linemen because they really don't play unless there's injuries. But the backup D linemen do play, and they play a lot of snaps.
Like
I mean, I looked this up.
right? Yeah.
Ebukam, Amenahue, Willis averaged in the 3 Niner playoff games 91 snaps.
Don't they play
So
like
those
on
guys
average,
played.
20% of the snaps, something like that?
They averaged 91. Now Amenahue and played some snaps inside too. So some of these guys played at the same time, but they averaged between the three of them 91 snaps. They better be able to get something out of these young defensive ends.
Kinlaw, because he looked great in training camp, but he did not look good against the Raiders. What are your thoughts on Kinlaw?
I mean, he's lighter this year. He looks quicker. He's playing with better leverage. I know he wants to rush the passer more, but I mean, like, he's got to play smart. I mean, to me, I would give him a gigantic sign and put it in front of his locker. Just says "Stay home," because he needs to not twist and spin. And in a rundown situation, he spun out of the hole and the running back ran right by him. He is the big body inside. He is the two-gapper. He is the guy with the great strength. He's just got to stay home, bull rush, and be prepared to see the ball, find the ball, be prepared to fire off the block and make a tackle. I mean, I just think that he's a guy that he can push the center into the lap of the quarterback, but if he tries to get fancy with his pass rush, I think he's a liability against the run. And then when you play him with Givens, who also is a one-gap penetrator, get up the field guy, I think they become a major liability against the run. So I don't know what to say.
Is Eric
I'm
looking
hoping.
like Eric? Can I ask you about Eric? Is he? I'm sorry for keeping you too
Eric
long.
looks great.
Eric.
Eric looks like the man. Eric has got unbelievable functional strength, and he's playing at a really high level.
Good.
And it's just Eric looks great. Hargrave looks great. Cleveland Farrell had a really good game.
Larry, I want to have you on my channel.
Yeah.
And just ask you a ton of questions because I haven't been able to go to camp since in over a week. And I really
whenever you want to do it next week or whatever, let me know.
I like you have a really thorough knowledge of all players and positions, and I would really like to pick your brain on some stuff.
Anytime you want to do it, we'll do it. We've done it before. This may be my first time back since we had our verbal fisticuffs.
Dink and dunk.
Yeah, exactly. All right, brother. Good stuff. You want anything you want to tell people? When are you going to be on next? What do you want to promote? When are you going live again?
Here's what I do want to say. I'm sorry for losing my cool. I shouldn't even pay attention to the chat. The way I grew up, it's hard for me to let people be disrespectful. So I apologize for doing that on your show. What I will say, though, is if you disagree with me, come to my show, come on live, and just debate me. Use words. We don't have to be disrespectful to each other, but we can debate. I welcome that. So come talk to me face to face. Yeah.
No, I would say, hey, look, guys, let's just be honest about this. If you're passionate, and we are, if you feel somewhat invested, and we do, you're gonna get into these arguments. It's not gonna be the first one. There's gonna be all kinds of things that happen this year, and the bottom line is, let's all keep it 100 and support one another and do some positive stuff. Because at the end of the day, let's be honest, it's a great world that we're in, that we can make money on YouTube talking about 49er football, talking about things that we all love. It's the toy department of life that we're all sitting in here, and we're all smart enough to realize and to have that perspective that there's a lot of terrible stuff going on in the world, and we're not involved in any of it right now. We're just having fun talking Niners.
Part of the reason I get so frustrated with stuff that goes on is because I got 4 kids who, ages between 15 and 24. who have to live in this world, and it frustrates me to see the way people behave, and I can't be one of those people that behaves like that. So I got to do a better job at checking myself, but I do welcome debate. Anybody's welcome to come debate me on my call-in show.
Yeah, and I have 4 kids that are basically the same age, 14 to 23, and they're big fans of this show, so be a fan. Ryan, good stuff, man. Have a great night. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, buddy.
There you go. Ryan Hensley checking in on the Krueg Show. Let's do this. We're going to hit the chat, do a couple more mentions in the chat, hit a couple of the better comments. But first, let me shout out the sponsors. Bottom of the screen, you see the scroll, MarinAutoGlass.com, 415-883-3030. In the top corners, you see our sponsor, New York Style Sausage Company. The only sausage I eat is New York Style sausage. I was just down there earlier this week getting some sausage. And also the title sponsor of the Krueg Show, Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. They got 2 locations, Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week in both spots from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in the Bay. Go say hi to Damon. Go say hi to Mary. Tell them that Krueg sent you. Here's what their spot looks like in Marin. We'll be back in a minute with your comments in the chat on the Krueg Show.
So New York Style Sausage was started over 70 years ago. We are the largest producer of fresh Italian sausage on the West Coast.
What makes our sausage in New York style is really the recipe came from back east, from New York, from Connecticut.
If you look at all of our labels, there's maximum 4 or 5 ingredients, which we're really proud of.
There's no preservatives, no MSG, fresh in, fresh out.
The pork comes in fresh, goes out fresh. There's never any freezing throughout the process. We've always used fine quality cuts. We're never going to deter from that. It's one of the reasons why our sausage is so good. I guarantee you put our sausage up against anybody else's from a flavor standpoint, no one will beat it, hands down.
Hey, do yourself a favor and do me a favor. Go buy a package of the New York style Italian sausage. Guaranteed you will love it. Guaranteed.
All right, coming down the home stretch on the Krueg Show. That's going to do it for us today. Now, tomorrow, back at practice. I'll be there tomorrow morning. Chris Forster talks at 9:30. So we'll talk a little O-line with Chris Forster in the morning. Then we got practice at 10:25. I'll be back in the afternoon. And tomorrow night at 6:30, Vish and myself on the Jesse Naylor channel. Last Second Sports. Jesse does a great job. We'll be joining him. We'll have our big show tomorrow night at 6:30. Can't wait to talk to the boys. And then Friday is the players' off day. And Jack Hammer and I will be doing a little live stream together, I believe in the morning. Damon Bruce and I will be doing a live stream together as well on his channel at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And we're also going to I'm going to talk to a guy named Mark, and I forget, Mark Adams, I believe is his last name. He's got, basically he heard me on 49er pregame on KMBR years ago talking about how Roger Craig belongs in the Hall of Fame. And then he took it and ran with it and has interviewed all these Niners and Roger and several other people. And he's trying to get Roger in the Hall of Fame. And he talked to Eddie D and Joe Montana and Steve Young and Jerry Rice and all these guys. Anyway, we're going to have Mark on the show and talk a little bit about Rodgers' bid for the Hall of Fame. It's one of the things I want to get done on my bucket list in life is to push and push and push and push and push until Roger Craig enters Canton, Ohio. I believe that strongly that he's a Hall of Famer, and that I think he's undoubtedly a Hall of Famer. He was the 1,000 before Marshall Faulk, before Christian McCaffrey. He was the original 1,000, all-pro fullback, all-pro halfback. This guy belongs in the Hall. There's like a million different things I could talk about why Roger Craig belongs in the Hall of Fame. And the 49ers are underrepresented in that Hall of Fame when you consider how great their dynasty was and how long it lasted. So Mark Adams is going to be with me Friday night at 5 o'clock, and we'll talk a little bit about Roger Craig and everything that he's doing and that I'm doing to try to get Roger in the Hall of Fame. Join us for that. Saturday morning at 9 a.m., the coach will be in the house. And Digital Drew, we're going to let Digital Drew stop by for part of that show as well with the coach. He said, hey, I'd like to get on with the coach. So Digital Drew's going to join us as well for that. Looking forward to that. And then I'm down to Santa Clara because at 5 or 5:30, I forget which time, Niners-Broncos go in the preseason. So when that game's over around 8:30 or so, we'll go post-game live with my son Kevin, Bay Area Baller. We'll have a couple guests in there. Maybe we'll even invite the coach. Looking forward to that. We had a huge post-game after the first preseason game. 1,800 people in the room, 20,000 views of the post-game stream. I mean, it absolutely blew up. We had like 100 super chats that day. It was an amazing show. So hopefully we can replicate that or maybe even improve on that. Saturday, that's Saturday after Niners-Broncos. Sunday, the players have the off day, and I'll probably take an off day as well. And then we got a whole new deal next week with all kinds of great content. Grant and I usually stream together on Mondays, so we'll bring it out for you next week as well. All right, let's hit the chat here, coming down the home stretch. Let's make sure we get all the chats. We got one here, one more super. Michael Alanis says, Larry, don't want to see the 49ers give up Latou. Do you think they redshirt him like they did Banks? George's heir apparent needs to be found soon. That's interesting. Yeah, I do kind of think you're onto something there, Michael. I'm not saying the Niners will invent an injury, but I don't think they want to waive him. But he's clearly not one of their three best tight ends right now. So I'm not sure how that's going to solve itself, to be completely honest. Maybe they can come up with an injury, stick him on PUP, let him develop. What we're seeing with Cam Latou right now is just a guy who's talented. He's young. His head's spinning, and he's just making uncharacteristic mistakes. And it's kind of like Jerry Rice year one. I'm not saying he's Jerry Rice, but Jerry Rice is the greatest receiver of all time. He struggled to catch the ball initially. Why? Because when you come out of college and you jump into the pros, there's just so many more factors that go through your head. So many things that you have swimming up here as you're trying to remember all these different things. And you can tell he's not just playing fast and having fun. He's thinking, and you can't play the game thinking. And that's where Cam's at right now. So, yet when you drop the ball a ton, doesn't matter what round you're picked in, you may not be around long. So there you go. Charlie says, I think Latou will figure it out. Johnny says, Larry, Latou has no confidence right now. Oh, I know. Absolutely none. He's totally shot right now. He's totally mentally fried by the drops and then the way he played in that game. Bomber T says, Brock Bowers, 2024. The Georgia Bulldogs from Napa. That'd be nice. That would be nice. The Face of Boxing says, Larry, what's your take on Lowell's take today? I didn't hear Lowell's take today. What's Lowell's take? Bring that to me, Face of Boxing, if you have it, if you can sum up Lowell's take. I didn't see it today. I've been busy, man. I was at training camp. I'm doing videos before and after camp. I'm driving back and forth from Santa Clara. Had a sales call tonight. We just got a bunch of things going on. I have not checked out Lowell's stance, but I would like to know. What else? Niners Nation with a Z says Troy Fumagalli is going to be tight end 2 and Kittle's heir. I don't believe that. I don't think that's the case. Clarice Armistead says, I doubt really seriously that Trey will be the starter. Yeah, not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Now, it doesn't mean it's never going to happen, but it's not happening week 1. And I think now that everybody has seen Trey play and seen, Brock play, I think even the notion that Trey was going to start I think people are understanding now that, Trey's got a lot of talent, but he's not ready right now. Carsard said, Larry Lowell said that we should get rid of Trey, basically. Well, once again, all trades, first of all, there's no way in hell I'm cutting him, and there's no way in hell I'm trading him for nothing. So what would I trade Trey Lance for? I want a defensive player that helps me win the Super Bowl this year, even if he's a free agent at the end of the year. Or, I want a fresh start at quarterback, and I want a Zach Wilson in some kind of a swap. I think it makes sense, though. A lot of people are pushing back saying, no, hate Zach Wilson, and I get it. He's been bad so far. But you see things as they are. I see things as they potentially can be. And I think Trey's going to be good, but it's going to take time. And I think Zach Wilson's going to be good, but it's going to take time. And I think both those guys need a change of scenery. Trent Balky says, man, Gabe Kapler is a douche, Larry. Why did he tell off the young reporter at KMBR? Yeah, come on. Seriously. And in Trent Balky's voice, Gabe Kapler is a douche, Larry. Why did he tell off that young reporter at KMBR? Now that's how Trent Balky would say it. I don't know, but come on. Answer the freaking questions. Answer the questions. Okay? It wasn't argumentative. It wasn't contentious. It was a question. And you know what, Gabe? If Danny Emmerman's got a story to write for KMBR.com, if he thinks something, he can't put it in the story. If you say it, then he can. He's fishing for a quote for a story. He's not the first guy to fish for a quote for the story, and he's not the last guy. But you can't turn it on him and say, well, are you asking me this question because you just want to hear me, say it? Yes. Yeah. Ding, 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 ding. Yes, that's exactly why he's asking you. So if you say it, guess what? He can write an article about it on KMBR.com and quote you. Yes. But if you don't say it, who's he going to quote? Himself? So this turning it on this 27-year-old reporter who, by the way, Gabe, was only doing his freaking job, and then you're trying to say, and I'm not trying to go at you or make fun of you or, yes, you are. Yes, you are. You were trying to make him sound like an idiot for asking that question. I'm not a Gabe Kapler guy. I've seen him up close. I'm not a fan. Johnny says, Larry, are you concerned about Moody? Yes, I am. It's time to make field goals. Just because you got a super strong leg doesn't mean you're going to be great in the NFL. I'm very concerned about Moody. And I asked a beat writer the other day, I said, what kind of rope do you think Jake Moody has? And he said 2 years. And I just laughed. I'm like, 2 years? What? Try 2 days. Try 2 more games. 2 years. So Jake Moody could just miss all these field goals and he's still going to be the Niner kicker for the next 2 years with Robbie Gold sitting at home and Zane Gonzalez, hitting 57-yarders in practice. No. Think again. Not 2 years. 2 months, even that is probably too long. Probably more like two games. 2 more games, 2 preseason games. If Jake Moody goes, let's say, 0 for 7 in the preseason, they're not going with him. Not when you've got Zane Gonzalez right there. Not when you got Robbie Gould on speed dial. No way. 2 years. No way 2 years. Jesus. Larry, will you give us the pre-starting lineups before cut day after the last preseason game? Yes, I will. I will. Maybe even the night of the last preseason game. I will give you my final 53. Break it all down. And I'll tell you this, after doing this exercise the other day in the Niner media room with Dave Lombardi and Jack Hammer and some of the guys in there, this is going to be a hellacious roster to cut down to 53. And the idea that they will keep 4 quarterbacks, no way. No way. Too many other needs on this football team. They're not going 4 quarterbacks. Johnny says, Larry, he's owed too much. Larry, Trey isn't worth much in trade value at this time. I hear you. That's why I think he'll be for a player. If they're going to move him, they're going to move him for a player. Because a player, if you moved him for a player who's a free agent at the end of the year, maybe you can get a better player. I do think he needs a change of scenery. I do. Because right now he's just gripping it. The Niners want to go in a different direction. It's a very divisive situation with the fans. You don't want that to creep into the locker room. But I am not cutting him, and I'm not giving him away. But I think it probably would be in his best interest to go somewhere else. But I want something good in return. So that I may have already put up, an impossible, insurmountable deal. Bomber T says Zach Wilson is a better fit for the Niners. I don't know if he's a better fit, but he needs a change of scenery in New York, and Trey needs a change of scenery here. Just saying. Clarence Beeks. Piss off to Gold's Gym, Kapler. Oh, man. Johnny says, Larry, if I'm Kapler, I'd be mad that his offense sucks. They've only needed offense since the middle of June. But what do I know? Farhan knows so much more. Face of boxing. Larry Lance is it. A story. He's a bust as of today. He needs to ball out to shut everyone up. Can't disagree with that. ERT says, let's not forget Ryan saying Trey is the best quarterback in the roster just a few weeks ago. Ryan's all in on Trey. So there you go. And I am too. I'm the guy who yelled and screamed that they should draft Trey Lance. So I still believe in him. But I just don't. I just predicted that they were going to recommit to Brock and move off of Lance. And I still think I'm right. We'll find out if I'm ultimately proven to be correct. But I'm not. Don't confuse a prediction with rooting for it. I only want to move off of Trey if you can get something significant. Otherwise, I'd rather keep him and develop him because I think he'll develop. MF says, Larry, I saw Tolbert rip Gabe Kapler for how he treated Emmerman live on KMBR right after the game. Good for Tommy. Good for T. T's real. That's the deal. The face of boxing. Larry, let's be patient with Moody like we should be with Trey. I don't know, man. Kickers. I don't know about patience with kickers. I want to be patient. It's just really damn hard. I mean, seriously, be honest. How many games do you think he has? I would say he's got 2, 3. What are you going to do with Zane Gonzalez? Zane Gonzalez is making 55-yarders, 57-yarders. It's a tough deal. What are you going to do? You're going to cut Zane Gonzalez or trade Zane Gonzalez, go with Jake Moody, and then what if Moody has a terrible preseason and then starts off the season cold? Then what? How long are you going with Moody? But the Niner beat writer I talked to said he's going to have a 2-year run. That's his rope. I said, that seems way, way, way long. Half Dead says, Larry's still going at it. Attaboy, Larry. Respect the grind. I just respect all you guys in the chat. We got 500 people in the room. Might as well talk a little bit. Holland Tracy says, Larry, do you guess the deal has already been agreed upon with Bosa, and this is all just to keep him out of harm's way until the regular season? Yes, I do. I don't believe the Niners haven't negotiated this deal. I think it's a done deal. I just don't think they want to get him hurt. Trock. Larry, if Trey is traded, what is the minimum round draft pick you would trade him for? I don't want to trade. I don't want a draft pick. They got a ton of picks. I don't want a pick. I want a player that's going to help me win the Super Bowl this year, or I want to reset on my quarterback. But I don't want just a fifth round pick. I mean, I guess. I mean, if you said what's a minimum pick that I would trade him straight up for, probably a second. Other than that, I'd keep him. I'd rather keep him than get a third. That's how I feel about it. 808 Niner, club member. Hey, 808. He says, Trey should just let it rip. If he throws picks, so what? Holding onto the ball and looking indecisive is not getting it done. He should go out on his own terms and have no regrets. Amen to that. Rack 'em. Rack 'em. It's one of my favorite lines. Okay. Is that going to be it? Let me see. Jesus. Larry, in case of 911 emergency, number 4 quarterback during the season, do they call an XFL or USFL quarterback? No, you get somebody in the practice squad. They'll have a 4th quarterback. They're just not going to have Brandon Allen on the practice squad because Brandon Allen's not going to take $200,000 after he made $800,000 last year. And if he is, man, his wife's way cooler than mine. Most people would not most wives would not go for the $800,000 pay cut. Johnny says, Larry, is Darnold actually played a game in the regular season? Keep in mind 68 turnovers in 5 years. Darnold is a very bad quarterback, hence he got replaced by Zach Wilson. Yeah, but he sure looked better against the Raiders than he ever looked with the Jets, that's for sure. We'll see. I mean, the Niners obviously have a pretty loaded team, a lot of weapons. If you can't do it here, you can't do it, period. So let's see. Val Ramos, can't you keep 2 kickers? Oh, my God. No, there's no chance in hell of that. No chance. Can you imagine 2 kickers? That would just be unbelievable. 49ers have kept 2 kickers. They've got a kickoff specialist and I mean, in some ways, I mean, heck, if you're really sold that Jake Moody's going to be a good kicker long term, but he's just not ready now. No, you can't do that. You just can't do that. Johnny says, Larry, can I ask you a serious question about Grant? Does he hate all 49er quarterbacks because he's really overreacting to interceptions in practice? I don't think I think hate is the wrong word. I don't think that Grant believes that they have a franchise quarterback on the team. And he's grinding. He's grinding. GTC Real says DTR 3rd round would have been better than a kicker. How good has Dorian Thompson-Robinson looked in Cleveland so far? He's looked really, really good. MF says, I hope Danny Emmerman doesn't feel intimidated by Gabe Kapler. I guarantee you he does. Guarantee you he does. Danny's a good young guy, too. Good kid. Really good kid. Reigns Red and Gold says, Larry, Ryan is sensitive and needs thick skin to do this. You need thick skin to do this. Well, we're all a little thin-skinned at times, myself included. Charlie says, Grant is incredibly hyperbolic. I'd pay him no mind. But he's got real estate in your head right now because you just paid him some mind. And Johnny says, Larry, I think Womack is going to win the nickel DB job over Oliver. Oliver looks 3 steps slow versus the Raiders. I agree. To me, the Niners' 3 best corners are Diamador Lenore, not in any order. It's Mooney Ward, then Diamador Lenore, and then Samuel Womack. And if Womack can play the outside, then Lenore can play the slot. And I think that's the route they'll go. Now, one guy who's really interesting, and you should watch him this week against Denver is Ambry, because Ambry's got, prototypical size and speed, and he's, and I asked him, I said, hey, you had a great first year, you got better and better and better. Second year was not nearly as good. What happened? What's going on? And you should go. I tweeted this out. If you follow me on Twitter at SportsLarryK, go look for the IG reel that I tweeted out. I think yesterday morning, or maybe it was this morning. And basically, I just asked him. I said, "What happened?" And he said, I just didn't work as hard after that second year, and I kind of felt everything was handed to me, and it's like I didn't appreciate it. So he's like, this year I know that, hey, if I come in here and I play hard, all these jobs are open, and it's a fresh start, and so he's playing. I mean, Ambry looks really good, really good. Clint says Luter and Jameson. Yeah, both those guys are good. Luter's got really long arms. Jameson is he's absolutely fantastic. Jameson's the real deal. Wait, let's see. A couple of these. Johnny says, Larry, I noticed Laburn didn't play against the Raiders. Are they keeping him under wraps? And are they going to practice squad him? He's a beast. I think that Laburn is headed to the practice squad, and I think he's a good back. I think that would be smart. Okay. Charlie Higgs says, Larry defends Grant a lot, so I guess I should expect that response. Well, first of all, I call it the way I see it. I don't always agree with Grant. You guys know that. Sometimes I agree, sometimes I disagree. But when I was feeling my worst, my lowest, he helped me. And so I'm loyal to him to absolutely, to the end. I'm a loyal friend, and he really did help me quite a bit getting this channel started. And, he's not for everybody, but I'll say this. He's not a bad guy. He's a good guy. I've met people, who you think are good guys, and then you get to know them and they're not good guys. I think Grant may be the opposite. Grant's one of those guys that maybe you might see him from afar and go, he's not a good guy. But as somebody who knows him, I can tell you he most definitely is a good guy. So that's all I'll say about that. All right, that's probably enough. That's probably good for the day. Johnny has this one too. He says, Larry, I think Farrell is the new Arden Key. He's going to be the latest 49er to get a big contract and do the 49ers sign Clowney. I would. I absolutely would. Trock Talk says, respect. Thank you. Not sure if that's directed towards me, but I'll just take it. Half Dead says, go to bed, Larry. You're right. It's 11 o'clock. And it's warm out here in the creek. I got to get a shower before I hit the rack. All right, that is going to do it for us. Thanks to all you guys. Have a great day. Check us out tomorrow. I'll be in camp. I'll bring you some videos before camp in the morning from Chris Forster. Then I'll give you a little preview of camp. Then we'll get some video from camp. Then we'll do a little post-camp video. Then I'll hustle back to the creek. And me, Vish, and Jesse with the big show tomorrow night at 6:30. Until then, peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get exactly what you asked for. Here for whatever you bring me, getting handled. I answer to no one, I don't need to hassle. Yeah, we ain't never fall back.